What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out US tests its monstrously powerful carrier to beat the new Chinese carriers. What a title. I will leave a link down below to the original video. It's by Wild Iron. Check it out if you want to go check it out without me waffling over the top. I really like watching these videos about the aircraft carriers that the US has because they're basically floating cities. And from what I've heard in the military, because I worked with some of the US Navy that would say that they're so big that there's almost like gangs that live, well, not gangs, but just like different areas, and they have their own, like, I don't know, cliques within the ship, like a city would, because it's so big. And so I just have so many questions about these carriers, and it's just baffling that these things even exist. So whenever a video like this pops up or gets recommended to me, I always want to watch it because they are genuinely fascinating. So link down below to the original video. If you haven't checked them out already, these things are selling like hotcakes. Look, I got two now. There's two of them now. Selling like hotcakes. What even is that saying? The hotcakes sell? Anyway, these do. Chugs do. Check them out. Link down below. 10% off. A small UK business. They're selling like crazy. So check them out if you haven't already. Genuinely really well-built bits of kit here. And you can get them customized. It's got my initials right there. Absolutely brilliant. Check them out. Link down below. And also check out Morale, my business down below, which we'll be hearing more of very soon. And I'm very excited to tell you more about that. But for now, let's just shut up. Let's watch this. And let's see what other monstrosity, we might as well use it since it's in, oh no, it's monstrously, not monstrosity. But let's see what other beasts that the US Navy's making, like they always do.
The aircraft carrier Gerald R is not just the largest ship in the US Navy, but practically an entire city on the water.
It is a city on the water. It's not practically, no, it is a city on the water.
Built using advanced scientific achievements. The commissioning of this giant marked a new era in the development of military equipment aimed at global U.S. dominance on water.
Look at the size of that thing. Look at it. It goes off into the distance. You can't even see the end of it. It just goes off across the horizon. The thing's a beast, isn't it?
But in today's geopolitical showdown, will one supercarrier be enough to contain China's ambitions in the Pacific?
Yes.
Let's find out in today's video.
Spoiler alert, yes it will. End the video there, guys. Yeah, all right, cut, done.
President Washington was convinced that without a decisive naval force, we can do nothing definitive. And with it, everything is honorable and glorious.
I feel like he could have just ended it after that first sentence. Without the defensive naval force, we can do nothing definitive. I don't think it needs, and with it, everything is honorable and good. It doesn't need that. That's extra fluff. Just that first sentence. You could have ended it there, George. You know what I mean?
While U.S. aircraft carriers really deserved glory during the great naval battles of World War II, and in the post-war years, they once again confirmed Theodore Roosevelt's thought that a good Navy is not a provocation to war, but the surest guarantee of peace.
It's true.
USS Gerald R. Ford, or CVN-78, which launched back in 2017 as the largest and most powerful warship ever built in the world.
Look at the size of it. Massive. Absolutely massive.
World continues this wonderful tradition, serving as the main guarantor of the peaceful and free use of the seas and oceans.
It's almost as if we've got a new continent now on planet Earth.
It's not for nothing that this aircraft carrier is given the prefix Super, as it's 10 times larger than the USS Langley, the first aircraft carrier in U.S. history, converted from a regular coal ship by 1922.
Wow.
And is capable of containing 3 football fields due to its insane length of 1,092 feet.
What?
Construction of the Ford class, once begun as the CVN-21 program, began in the summer of 2005 when Northrop Grumman ceremoniously cut steel for a 15-ton plate that would later become part of the carrier's side hull.
Wow.
The construction of the giant was entrusted to the only shipyard in the United States capable of building nuclear aircraft carriers, Newport News Shipbuilding in Newport News, Virginia.
Just think about that for a second. It's powered with nuclear power. There is a ship so big that it's powered by nuclear power, and it's the size of a city. What? That just makes it sounds like something out of a science fiction story, doesn't it?
Where there's a grand ship, there's a corresponding price. Therefore, since the first contract of $2.7 billion in 2005, the final cost of the aircraft carrier quickly ballooned to $12.8 billion and another $4.7 billion for research and development.
Oh my God.
The grand total, $17.5 billion.
Oh my God. That is crazy. I wonder how much it takes to maintain this thing. Like, how much does it cost to maintain it? It's got to be like hundreds of millions a year, right?
The cost of the entire program by 2024 was estimated at about $40 billion. Although, even if we assume that subsequent ships of the class will cost the U.S. Navy less, with plans for 10 ships and 5 already in production, it's unlikely.
Whoa. 10 of these ships? There's no way that's going to be real. There's 5 in production and they want 10 of these things. Is there even enough people in the Navy to be able to use all 10 of them? 10. 10 of these things. There's no way. That's mental, innit? Can you imagine how strong the US Navy fleet would be with 10 of these things out in the waters? Like, I get it. Like, the US is already a step above everyone else. But at that point, it's just like, if a war kicked off with China, right, or Russia, and 10 of these were off its coastline, 10 of them, like, that's mental. Like, you've practically, like, how many people are on one? Let me just see how many people are on the one ship. How many people on what's it called again? US what is it? The General R. Is it USS? Is that what they call it? How many people are on it? The crew. It's about 2,600 people. Wait, actually. No, it's not. It's about 4,539. Okay. 4,539, which is already crazy. And let's just round it down and say 4,500. That means if you had 10 of them, you would have 45,000 Navy personnel off the coast of your country, whatever country you go to war with. You would have 45,000 Navy personnel. How many aircraft how many actual aircraft can be on? Let me see this. The stats are just mind-blowing, aren't they? The stats are legitimately mind-blowing. Oh, my stupid phone, come on. How many aircraft on... Here we go. It carries up to 90 aircraft. 90! 90! 90! Carries up to 90 aircraft, more than 4,500 personnel. The carrier size allows it to support up to 90 aircraft, including 5th Gen F-35s, FA-18 Super Hornets, E-2D Advanced Hawkeye, EA-18G Growler Electronics attack aircraft, MH-60RS helicopters, as well as a number of UAVs. If there was 10 of them, there would be 900 aircraft. Like, I feel like I'm not getting this point across at how absolutely nuts that is. Absolutely nuts.
To realistically stay at $40 billion. But to better understand why so many hard-earned American taxpayer dollars were given, let's go over the main systems of this futuristic aircraft carrier. With 100,000 tons of displacement, the ability to transport up to 90 aircraft and accommodate more than 4,500 crew members.
I didn't have to Google it. I could have just watched the video, couldn't I? But let's just go back there. 100,000 tons displacement. If they put 10 of these in the ocean, is the ocean going to rise? Do you know what I mean? Holy shit.
The ability to transport up to 90 aircraft and accommodate more than 4,500 crew members All these and dozens of other impressive capabilities of the ship would have been impossible without fueling by 2 Bechtel A1B nuclear reactors with a thermal power of about 700 megawatts, which is 25% more than the A4W installed in the predecessor, USS Nimitz, the vessel that the USS Ford is intended to replace. Not to mention the fact that the reactors in the new aircraft carrier are much less demanding in terms of maintenance. Gerald R. Ford converts steam into power by piping it into 4 main turbine generators, MTGs, thereby generating electricity for the ship's main systems, as well as the new electromagnetic catapults, Electromagnetic Aircraft Launch System, or EMLS. Such a replacement for traditional steam catapults with linear asynchronous motor instead of a steam piston weighs several times less, accelerates aircraft much more smoothly without putting unnecessary stress on both the aircraft and the pilots.
Wow.
It also eliminates the need for steam storage for the supercarrier, freeing up a lot of space below deck.
Yes, so you can see why there's been billions of put into just research alone for this thing. Because even though, yes, it is much bigger than any other aircraft, if they can cut down on certain things needing a lot of size, do you know what I mean? Like, they can have more room for aircraft. That's why it can hold up to 90 aircraft. What the fuck?
Additionally, by using EMLS in tandem with an innovative braking system called Advanced Arresting Gear, AG, the number of sorties per day increased by 25%. Moreover, this is rather a bonus since the main task of AG, which replaced hydraulics, was to reduce the load on the hulls of the latest combat and reconnaissance UAVs. And in order to quickly rearm these same aircraft based in the USS Ford Air Wing, advanced weapon elevators are needed, which were both a breakthrough and a headache for the fleet. Their task...
Actually, that just reminds me, if you've got upwards of 4,500 members, Navy members on that ship, right? Okay, let me just put this in perspective. I was on a ship that was about 100 meters long. Wasn't that big. There wasn't that much crew on there. There really wasn't that many crew on there. And I don't even think it went into 3 digits. I think there was less than 100 people on this ship. And yet, every time we stopped, it took quite a long time to get all the food on the ship for the amount of time we're out at sea. It looked a couple hours of daisy chaining food constantly to get on the ship. Now, I'm guessing they don't need to daisy chain food onto the ship, and it'll be like cranes and stuff. But can you imagine the amount of resources they need to be out at sea to feed 4,500 people? That's crazy. Like, the amount of food you would need. My guess is the kitchen alone is giant. The kitchen must... Maybe they've got multiple galleys. Maybe they've got multiple kitchens on ship. They must have, right? Surely they've got multiple... They can't just have one galley, because that would be a lot of cooking for 4,500 people. I literally can't wrap my head around it.
Is to ensure the fastest possible transportation of ammunition on a ship from the storage and assembly site directly to the aircraft that'll be armed with it. Due to the clever placement of the elevators, ammunition will not cross any air wing movement zones, minimizing possible traffic problems in hangars and on the flight deck, making rearmament possible in minutes instead of hours. And although certain problems had been showing up since 2016 regarding their performance, by 2021, the last of the 11 AW was brought into combat-ready condition. Well, where would we be without the latest sensors and self-defense systems? The aircraft carrier received the latest dual-band radar, DBR, being developed by the Raytheon team for another futuristic U.S. Navy ship, the Zumwalt class.
Okay.
It's funny that Zumwalt itself decided to abandon in its order to reduce the cost of production of already expensive ships.
Yeah, didn't they discontinue them? We did a video on it.
But CVN-78 Gerald R. Ford left it. Although the next ship, CVN-79 John F. Kennedy, instead of the DBR at a cost of $500 million, they decided to install Enterprise Air Surveillance Radar, ESR, saving about $180 million.
Just $180 million they've saved. No big deal.
In June 2021, Gerald R. Ford completed its first full-scale impact test 100 miles from Ponce Inlet, Florida. To do this, the Navy detonated 40,000 pounds of TNT underwater near the aircraft carrier. The ship passed it with dignity, requiring only 20% of the repair work initially expected by the service as a result of the tests.
Wow.
But one party who definitely did not appreciate such tests, besides fish, of course, was the U.S. Geological Survey, which subsequently recorded an earthquake measuring 3.9 on the Richter scale.
It's so massive. This thing, that even the tests for it are causing earthquakes.
In the spring of 2022, Ford finally departed on its first deployment to Europe, safely leaving its home port in Norfolk, Virginia.
Where did it
Shortly
go?
before this, the aircraft carrier conducted a short-term operational deployment in the Atlantic.
Where did it go in Europe? If this ever comes, I don't think there's even a bay in Europe that could hold this thing, right? Surely they can't in the UK. Maybe in Plymouth, but I very much doubt it.
Which included exercises with European allies and partners, task force exercise. Although the U.S. Navy itself soon admitted that this was more likely a stress test of the overall capabilities of the CVN-78. In May 2023, Ford arrived in Oslo, Norway to participate in NATO exercises, welcomed the Norwegian Crown Prince on board, and then set off for the Arctic, visiting Croatia and Italy on the way back.
Imagine seeing that just rock up. Wow, look at that beast. Look at the hangover. And like they've got the whole bridge hanging over the side. Like that's how big the rest of it is. Is that it can just hold all this here.
As the ship's voyage nearly came to an end, its carrier group, along with USS Dwight D. Eisenhower CVN-69, was urgently deployed to the eastern Mediterranean to support regional containment efforts. This happened the day after Hamas attacked Israel. But after Hamas and Iran got a clear signal that the Democracy Navy was not kidding, Ford successfully returned to Norfolk in January of 2024 after spending 239 days away from home.
Wow, that's a long time. That's a long time.
During this time, the supercarrier sailed more than 83,476 nautical miles, carried out 43 resupply operations, and its air wing flew more than 10,396 combat sorties. However, while the USS Ford was traveling, China didn't sit idly by and instead recreated a replica target of the American aircraft carrier at a training ground in Taklamakan Desert, Xinjiang province.
They created a replica of it? This must have been just an intimidation tactic. Surely that's all it was.
This was recorded on satellite images from Planet Labs on January 1st, 2024.
Yeah, sure.
But based on images taken earlier, work on the model started back in November 2023. Furthermore, Planet Labs discovered additional targets that strongly resemble American Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. The target's more than 1,000 feet long, and the design is virtually identical to the Ford.
Wow. Yeah, they're really practicing, aren't they? They've done that purely out of intimidation. That's the only reason they've done that. That's the only reason they've done that.
With an island located closer to the stern than the Nimitz carriers and 4 ejection tracks marked on the target deck. To more accurately simulate a ship in motion, the Chinese even made something resembling a rail system that allows you to move targets to practice missile strikes on them.
Wow.
With the number of DF-26 medium-range ballistic missiles rising sharply from 300 in storage in 2021 to more than 500 by 2022, this has obviously caused some concern in the U.S. The estimated range of these missiles is from 620 to 1,860 miles, due to which they were dubbed Guam killers, due to the potential for striking U.S. forces on the Pacific island of the same name, although this title was very soon changed to aircraft carrier killers due to their anti-ship role. But perhaps the biggest threat to Ford is the Chinese DF-21D hypersonic anti-ship missile.
The thing is, if China even thought about doing anything like that, oh my God. Could you imagine if China attacked the ship? Oh my God, like, they would get obliterated. They would legitimately... Can you imagine the force that would come down on them from the US? The US would have boots in the ground before China even knew what day it was. Like, the full force that would come at them. Wow.
Once launched, it follows a trajectory similar to that of an intercontinental ballistic missile, soaring into low Earth orbit before deploying a hypersonic glide vehicle whose speed can reach up to Mach 10 during the controlled descent phase.
Wow.
This, coupled with a range of over 1,240 miles, could create an area denial bubble of a 1,200-mile radius around each launch platform located along the Chinese coast.
Jeez.
Since Ford's defense systems are not yet capable of intercepting such a missile, the U.S. Navy and Air Force are clearly aware that to attack launchers of the DF-21D and other missiles from the People's Liberation Army, PLA, they'll need an aircraft with a 2,000-mile range and sufficient stealth and excellent survivability in contested airspace. Is it possible to create such an aircraft so soon? Hardly. Could future NGAD fighters be equipped with additional fuel tanks with enough reserve capacity to soften China's hawkish stance in the hotly contested South China Sea?
I hope China are not stupid enough to do something like that, because it would set off a World War III. Like, instantly, if China instantly did that, the day it happened, World War III would start, because the US would instantly kick into fighting gear. They would call up NATO, which means Britain and the rest of Europe will get called up. Russia will then back up. Oh my God, can you imagine how hectic it would be? It would be pure chaos, wouldn't it?
Of course. However, it's important to consider another point here, namely the recently sea-tested third and largest aircraft PLA carrier, the Fujian, also known as the Type 003 class, which is approximately 1,037 feet long and displaces 80,000 tons. Like the American aircraft carriers, it received the Catapult-Assisted Takeoff but Arrested Recovery, CATOBAR system, and 3 EMALS, electromagnetic catapults like the USS Ford. At the same time, the PRC vessel runs on conventional, not nuclear energy, unlike the Ford, which makes fuel requirements a significant problem for the flagship of the Chinese fleet.
It's just not...
But the devil
it's not even close. It's not even close, let's be honest.
Is that Fujian can launch and recover Xi'an KJ-600 airborne early warning AWACS aircraft, which closely resemble the U.S. Navy's Grumman E-2D Hawkeye.
Everything they do
Such
is
an
copy.
ace in the hole of the PLA Navy will allow their task force to operate independently away from Chinese territory with a powerful airborne radar overhead, providing comprehensive awareness of what's happening on the battlefield. Simply put, like U.S. Navy aircraft carriers, a Chinese aircraft carrier will have hundreds of miles of command and control around it. Against the backdrop of such news, experts said that displacement in engines, although they play an important role, concern them much less than what a Chinese aircraft carrier is capable of carrying on board. And although the preliminary figure of 40 aircraft and 12 helicopters, including Shenyang J-15, Shenyang FC-31 fighters, and AWACS aircraft sounds impressive, it's still far from the USS Ford.
Yeah, even still, and you guarantee even all of this equipment, firstly, they copy a lot of US stuff. We already know that, don't we? But the thing is, it's never going to be as good as the stuff the US has. Even if they copy it, we know it's not going to be as good. And we know that they show them off to make it look like they are, but we know they're not as good. We just know it.
Not to mention that in the next class of aircraft carriers, the U.S. Air Force plans to increase the number of aircraft transported to 100 units. At current production rates, China could acquire 6 aircraft carriers by 2030. But even so, they'd still have a lot of work to do to catch up with the U.S., which contains more than 1/5 of the 47 aircraft carriers operating around the world. Moreover, the rest of the Ford-class vessels are not standing still. The Navy is currently working on the following 4 ships, which it plans to gradually put into operation from 2025 to 2036.
Wow.
CVN-79 John F. Kennedy, CVN-80 Enterprise, CVN-81 Doris Miller, and the yet-to-be-named CVN-82.
Wow.
And now let's further supplement them with the latest F-35 fighters of various modifications, their loyal wingman in the form of various combat and reconnaissance drones.
Not to mention Gen 6 is already getting made. We know that. In fact, it's probably already done at this point. They're probably just testing it and making sure it's absolutely on point before it gets announced to the world.
And the latest NGAD fighters, resulting in a whole floating universal airfield. Therefore, even despite the talk about the uselessness and obsolescence of aircraft carriers, they will continue to exist, if only because the aircraft are extremely useful, especially when you need to tame someone's territorial ambitions. What do you think? Is it worth investing further in aircraft carriers, or is humanity ready to create more modest and less expensive platforms? Let us know in the comments below.
I just hope so much that they never really get to be, like, need to be used in person, because my God, the wrath that would come down if anyone decided to attack something like that. And having 10 of these out in the waters eventually, or that's what they hope to have, it's just crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. But I mean, it just shows the US dominance of the world, doesn't it? Absolutely mental. I do miss the US. I do miss it a lot. Anyway, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I'll leave a link down below to the original video. Make sure you go check Chug out. 10% off down below. And check out Morale. And other than that, I love you all. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Goodbye.